Hi there, Rory Keran here from CSM. In this training video, I'm going to delve into account-based marketing and everything that you need to understand around growing your business through business development. So let's jump into my laptop now and get started.
All right, so here's what we're going to cover. First, I'm going to break down what ABM actually is and how it's completely different from high volume cold outreach. Then we'll get into the mindset shift that you need to make for ABM to actually work and why it's so important to connect your marketing and business development teams. From there, I'm going to basically walk you through our 5D ABM model step by step and then show you the exact real world campaign that landed us one of the top law firms in Ireland. We had a 73% response rate with that particular campaign, 26% face-to-face meetings, and a 25% close rate. So excited to bring you through that. Finally, we're going to wrap up. If you stick around till the end, I'll obviously be giving you away this presentation deck, but also building blocks that you need to run this internally. And there's going to be some bonus frameworks in there and resources that you can download. So let's jump into it. So if you know CSM, you know that we speak around four basically key growth engines in B2B business. You've got inbound, outbound, nearbound, and then you've got brand that sits at the top, which together they create an all-bound strategy. So we deploy and run these engines for our clients, and once they're past that proof of concept stage, like meaning they're generating leads consistently, we basically hand over the keys to the client and the playbook and train them in. So ABM falls under that category of outbound and brand. It's most effective when the marketing team and the business development team, they're working together in unison. So they're targeting the same accounts, sharing those insights with each other, and really just aligning on every message and touch point, because this ensures that your outreach is really relevant and the brand is reinforced at every single stage, and the chances of converting a high value account will they increase significantly. So let's kind of talk around what ABM is to start off. It stands for account-based marketing, and it's a focused marketing and business development strategy that really targets a defined set of high value accounts instead of trying to reach a broad audience. So rather than using a one-size-fits-all approach, ABM really tailors every single interaction and focuses in on the content, the campaigns, the outreach to their specific needs, to their challenges, what's keeping them up at night, and the goals of each individual account. So this is a level of precision that creates stronger relationships. It drives higher conversion rates and really increases the overall lifetime value for yourself and builds trust from the get-go. So there's a lot of common ABM tactics that include, personalized content, highly valuable targeted ads that are tailored towards maybe an event. You've got email, LinkedIn, lump email, one-on-one outreach. And you can do one-to-many or one-on-one. We're very much adamant on one-to-one with our ABM strategy. But we're basically concentrating resources on a smaller, strategically chosen group of accounts. And ABM really enables that deeper engagement, more relevant conversations, and measurable growth. So now that we understand it, let's look at how it differs from high volume cold outreach. High volume cold outreach takes obviously a volume first approach. So it's casting a wider net, relying on broader messaging and measuring success by the number of leads generated. So the focus is on reaching as many people as possible, even if they might not necessarily be the right fit because you don't have time to do that research on maybe a full industry. And some might slip into the campaign that you would never have worked with, but you need to accept that if you're going down, the high volume route. But ABM flips that model. Instead of trying to reach out to everyone, it focuses in on a particular set of accounts that really matter most. And this means that, the campaigns, they're more laser focused, the metrics measure impact rather than volume, and it really allows you to just align your efforts to buying committees rather than, a huge amount of businesses. So every message, every touch point, it's really just tailored to their specific pain points and maybe some challenges that you've spotted on their website or read about them in the news or maybe in some of their reports. So people really influence that buying decision. So it's just a shift from volume to value, and allows you to create just deeper engagement and potentially shorter sales cycles and the likelihood of closing those deals. Now, that's not to say that high volume cold outreach doesn't have its place. It's a strategy that we use for a huge amount of our clients, including our own business, with great success. But it's more effective depending on how you execute. So it works best for companies that really know how to leverage each touch point strategically. They can present complementary offers that spark curiosity. They're very good at positioning themselves in a way that builds instant credibility and use strong, persuasive copywriting to cut through that noise. When those pieces are in place, high volume outreach stops being that sort of scattergun approach and becomes a more scalable, results driven engine. So it definitely has its place. What I usually encourage people to do if they're new to business development and outbound as an overall engine, it's probably good to have them both running in unison. The reason being is ABM allows you to really start to tailor your message and see what's resonating. And then you can start to pick up those learnings and feed those learnings into the high volume cold outreach as well. ABM is more tailored towards those high ticket accounts, and high volume cold outreach is maybe some more lower or mid-tier accounts that you're going after in your B2B growth strategy. So when does ABM work? ABM isn't the right strategy for every situation. It's designed for those moments where focus will have its biggest impact. So it works best when you're, as I said, chasing high value deals where one win can really shift the revenue needle. It's also ideal for, longer sales cycles where you need to have that level of consistency and tailored engagement. And we see ABM shine when there are complex buying committees, when there's multiple decision makers with different priorities. And in situations where there could be a couple of stakeholders and it could be quite complex, you might get a champion, a gatekeeper, all influencing different outcomes and what they want and what's keeping them up at night. You need to take all of that into consideration. So in other words, if the deal is strategic or it's complex, ABM gives you that structure and precision to win. So even when companies understand ABM and we train them on it and we start to implement these growth engines into their business, a lot fail because they try to take their old cold email tactics and put ABM as a label on it. Okay, so you need to start to shift the mindset if you're going to do this, because it's not about marketing just to fill the funnel. It's actually really about moving those named accounts forward and accelerating the deals. So it's not just about focusing on a single persona. It's about actually engaging the entire buying committee and tailoring your approach to every decision maker and influencer. So it's about it's not just running generic campaigns. It's actually about orchestrating personalized strategic account plays that map each account's journey. So the challenge with ABM that we find is it's just more effort, so people don't like effort. They don't like change. It takes time to do the research, and it's a little bit slower up front. Now, AI has fast tracked that completely, and we're showing our clients how to build AI agents that can do the research part, that can actually take a lot of the heavy lifting off your plates. But it does demand that research. It demands that alignment and that level of precision. And I think, just a blast message or a blast email to everyone, because it feels faster and easier, there's sort of that psychological battle where there's a human urge for just quick wins, versus discipline, and to go really deep and create long-term high value results. So, Yeah, ABM works when you resist that urge for volume and just commit to value, even when it takes more time, more thought, and more coordination, and you need to be cut out for that. So when we run ABM, we follow the same commercial growth process. You've probably seen this before. It's across pretty much a lot of our workshops and presentations, but it's applied specifically to every part of our business. We always start in the strategy zone, the build zone, and then moving into launching and proving something before we hand over the keys. So we start in that strategy zone where, let's take ABM as an example, where we define the ideal accounts, map the buying committees, decide on the angles and the copywriting, the offers, what will resonate with them. Then we move into that build zone where we create that ABM engine. So we look at the structure, the systems, the workflows, and what presentation decks do we have, case studies that we could send to these people, what is the collateral and the assets that we can use to make this campaign a success, in simple terms. What do we need to build before we launch? Because we need to be kind of 10 steps ahead on the chessboard here. If someone responds to you, you want to have that collateral to your hand, the case study that you can quickly send, or the video, or whatever the case may be. So this is also where you sort of build those data sets and the lead lists, making sure that we have accurate contact data from the right people within each target account. And in each account, you might have 5-10 people that you're going after. And that's another really important part to recognize here. So we set up that tracking, those creative assets, the outreach sequences, everything is ready to deploy before we launch. And once we're happy with that and we all have signed off on the strategy and what we've built to make this a success, that's when we hit launch on the campaigns and move into getting this campaign as fast as we can into the proof of concept stage. So many businesses fail because they don't understand feedback loops. When you launch something, you look at it as a feedback loop and you iterate and you improve and you make it better. Outbound works, inbound works, nearbound works. You just need to be patient and recognize that growth is a feedback loop. You need to know if your message is not resonating, you need to make those changes. All right. So, everything from the subject header, let's break it down into first principles. If the subject header isn't going to resonate with someone, no one's going to open your email. If your email is terribly written, no one's going to respond to you. Now, I know that's in its most basic form, but you've got to actually think like, okay, have we got a compelling subject header? Are people even clicking into our emails? And we set up tracking so we can see what's working and not working, what is not working. But once we move into that proof of concept stage and we're starting to get proven leads that are coming through consistently, that engine starts to move into the scale zone. We start to optimize those campaigns. So can we get them in a faster way, in a cheaper way? Like it all costs money when we launch campaigns. So campaigns run through these growth engines. The growth engine is the system and the structure behind that will stay there. And we always have the motto is like, systems run the business, people run the systems, and not the other way around, because people come and go in companies, but systems can be there to be deployed and you can run campaigns through them. So, we're looking at getting this into that scale zone. And then once we have that and everything is working like clockwork, we then hand over the ABM playbook and that outbound engine and deploy that system for you internally. So your team or your internal team can really keep running it and expanding campaigns without relying on outsourcing. So we train your team on how to take it in-house, because when you bring stuff in-house, it builds enterprise value for your company. So we're very different from your stereotypical agency. We want our clients to take what we're building for them in-house, because if you go to sell your business or you go to get investment, it's so important that you actually have predictability with your growth, because you'll get a higher multiple from an investor or from a buyer if they see that you have control and predictability over that. So it all depends if you have an internal team currently or you're looking to hire further down the line. We help on both sides. Now, in some cases, with some clients, they're very adamant that we continue to run it, and a conversation is had there. So ABM it does work best when it's built on a solid marketing strategy. So if you've already done things like, I'll just zoom in here for a second, but if you've done things like defined your ICP, so you know exactly who it is that you're targeting, you've understood your total addressable market. So what is the total market and what's the total attainable market? Like how much market share can you actually steal or grow into? So you know the size of the opportunity and what your competitive edge is. You've identified your customers' core pain points. You know what problems they need solved. You can articulate your value proposition, your unfair advantage, and you can explain those benefits very clearly. You can establish your positioning and your brand narrative, and you know the story you want to own in the market. Then your marketing can directly inform business development, meaning both are fully aligned. So when that happens, ABM feels a lot more relevant, the response rates obviously improve, and campaigns deliver better results. So we always encourage marketing and business development to work together in unison when it comes to ABM. But even if you don't have those separate teams in-house, if you're outsourcing to a company like us, we'll set up those systems and everything up with that mindset. So you have those functions fully in sync from the start. So in simple terms, just make sure your marketing strategy is in a good place before thinking around the ABM side of things. So let me bring you through just a very simple and effective ABM framework that we created called the 5D model. I think frameworks like this just help you remember the process and sort of use it as a checklist. Like this is your checklist before launching any ABM campaign. Well, you can tick the box and say, right, we've done that. So the first one is define. So when you're defining your high value accounts, the ones worth investing that extra time and resources into, we start with fit. So making sure that the account matches our ideal customer profile by looking at things like industry, size, location, the tech stack, then intent. Are they actively researching solutions like ours? Next is engagement. So have they interacted with us before through events, sites, visits, or emails? Finally, we bring it all together into that priority score as well. So, we know exactly which accounts to target first. So the score priority, you can do that in platforms like Clay, which is fantastic for that. It can give a ranking and a score. So this really ensures that we focus on the right accounts from the start and not just the loudest or the most visible ones as well. Now, we would set up sort of revenue operations structure within our clients so we can pull the information from the CRM system. Who have they engaged with before? Lots of that vital information. So it becomes easier to create these ABM campaigns as well. One of the biggest reasons ABM fails is it isn't really the product, it's actually just targeting the wrong customers. So when there's a mismatch between what we offer and who we target, sales cycles just get longer, activation rates really drop off, and churn goes up and numbers stop making sense. So that's why we need clarity on two levels. First, the company level fit, so our ideal customer profile, and then making sure the business itself is the right match. The second one is the individual level fit, so the buyer persona within that business who actually makes the decision. So just thinking that through. And working backwards on your ICP is the type of company that gets the most value from what we offer as an organization. So you need to start thinking about that as like, do they fit the solution that we have in the market and what we're amazing at? And would they be ready to buy now? We define it by looking at key factors like industry, where the need is urgent and underserved, or the company size, the right scale for our product complexity, the growth stage, are they scaling fast or already established, the tech environment, so do they use tools that we integrate with, the business model, how they sell and who they sell to, the primary pain points, so the measurable challenge that we solve, procurement process, how quickly they can decide and implement. So the clearer you are on these, the easier it is to focus your ABM efforts on companies most likely to convert and grow with us. So once we've defined our targets, the next step is to map that buying committee out. Okay, so this means understanding every role in the decision. So from the decision makers who control the budget to influencers shaping vendors' choice. So you've got people, what we call champions. You see them marked here, champions, who advocate for us internally, and blockers who may resist change. So you've got these people who are going to resist that change. And we then go deeper with stakeholders research. So finding out their strategic priorities. So looking at, stakeholder research in there and finding out, okay, public statements, real pain points, the current tech stack. And this gives us, the insights to craft outreach that they can't ignore, and to position ourselves in a way that really just speaks directly to what matters most to them. So you're going to be getting all of this at the end, but there's lots of juicy information in here that will be helpful for you. I'm not going to go through it in detail now because we have a lot to cover. Step 3 is where we turn that research into action. So just designing personalized account plays. So, first just tie your messaging to the company's own goals and growth plans. Show how you actually help them achieve what they've already said matters. Second, tailor content to each decision maker's role. So the CFO cares more about return on investment. The CTO maybe more around integrations, or obviously the tech stack. The head of ops might be more around efficiency. Sales more around pipeline or growth. So finally, just choose your channels wisely. Reach each stakeholder where they're most receptive. So some might be more receptive on LinkedIn, on email, over phone, at an event, private briefings. Really, your job is to understand them and understand their diary better than them. This is where ABM starts to feel more personal, because it is. That's what ABM is. It's a personal touch. So step 4 is all about execution. So really just orchestrating that ABM play. So first, launch multi-channel engagement. So the buying committee sees us everywhere they look: LinkedIn, email. You could have a podcast or a thought leadership piece that you're posting on LinkedIn when you're connecting with them, because the algorithm shows the people you connect with your content for the first 2 weeks. Typically, first 2 weeks when you connect with someone on LinkedIn, your content will start showing up in their newsfeed. So take advantage of things like that. There's loads of tactical plays here. And use those brand assets that you're getting from the marketing team to really support that business development outreach. Second, align your touch points across the buying journey. So as I said, marketing, sales, customer success, they're all telling the same story at every stage. And then finally, blend that digital and physical and relationship-based play together. I think when they're all working in unison, it works really well, the offline world and the online world. And I'll talk about that in our own example a little bit later. Pair online campaigns with those in-person experiences. If you can get a dinner or a road show, like meeting people on the road and going for dinner, or we do like panel sessions. So you might get like 10 prospects in a room, and you might partner up with, like in our case, we might partner up with a company that serves a very similar audience to us, but in a non-competitive way. So like HubSpot as an example, and we would host a dinner, have everyone there. HubSpot speaks, our team engages, and we basically just get the whole room selling to each other. Those road shows, face-to-face meetings are great. Sort of like private events, VIP events is what we call them. You could do like things like personal videos to build trust and accelerate deals as well. This really shows a level of effort. Personalized landing pages. These things have become a lot more easier now with technology and AI. So this is where all the planning just turns into that visible, coordinated action, where you've got a really good plan in place. Finally, step 5 is about proving ABM works and making it better over time. So just measuring engagement. Are target accounts interacting with our content, attending the events or the roadshow, as I said, or are they responding? So tracking pipeline influence. ABM is helping moving deals through a pipeline as fast as we possibly can, and just getting an answer. Like you look at pre-sale, in-sale, post-sale. This is all pre-sale. I'm not going to touch on in-sale at all in today's session, but pre-sale is just getting someone's attention, which is what we're fighting for, and getting some sort of feedback or an answer as to would they be open for a conversation? Sometimes timing is not right, and that's absolutely fine, but going in with the right intentions is the key here. So we look at revenue. Are we closing high value accounts because of this over time? And then finally, we iterate using what works to refine future plays. So the goal is to have, consistent feedback loops. So every ABM campaign becomes smarter, becomes more effective than the last one. So we're always kind of taking those learnings on board. So I'm going to just talk through the technology stack that we use for those high volume cold outreach campaigns. So stepping away from ABM for a second, just to show you this, because they can both run in unison. Like I said, you can have ABM and high volume running together, and the tech stack is very similar. So long as you're not going too advanced, which I'll talk about the tech stack later on, or I'll give you a free resource as to what a very advanced ABM tech stack looks like. But this is it in its basic form. So we start with the data sources, so all of the different data platforms. This is all linked into Clay, so Clay will start to pull this the data that we need of the people we're targeting. From there, we can use LLMs, Perplexity, Claude, OpenAI to really help with personalization. So we'll just do the research for us, and you can set up agents to do this pretty effectively now, like AI agents. So it's not a human. A human will still oversee this and make sure it makes logical sense. But, did they show up in the news? What blogs are they writing about? What are they posting on LinkedIn? What are the leaders talking about on LinkedIn? How do they talk on LinkedIn? What's the language they use? So a lot of customer sentiment, like understanding the people you're targeting, what's important to them, if they posted anything on LinkedIn, and doing that level of research. So you can do things like writing that initial outreach copy, tailoring messaging, generating ideas for follow-up. So LLMs are fantastic for that. We will always have a professional copywriter to oversee that, but ideation and looking at your angles and your hooks, it's such a great place to start. So all that data, it just flows into CRMs like HubSpot, Salesforce, Go High Level, whatever CRM you're using, and everything is tracked and managed within there. So then we basically just enrich the data further using Clay to fill in any missing details, start to score the leads. And once the data is ready, we run campaigns through email outreach tools like Lemlist, Instantly, Smartly. They'd be the most popular ones. And you can use LinkedIn automation tools like Prosp or LinkedIn Helper, and they really complement your email and just duplicate your time or your business development team's time. So we typically set this up for teams and help them organize this internally, because it is tedious. Like prospecting is one of those tedious things. We all have to do it. It has to get done in organizations, but how we do it, you can work smart and not hard. So just using that to your advantage. Then you have like calendar booking tools, like we use Calendly, but there's loads of options there. So they can book in for a Zoom call or a Microsoft Teams call. And then we just get notifications in Slack when someone books in or when someone responds. So we can jump on that pretty quickly. But the key point here is that each part of this stack, it's just connected. So the data into the personalization, into the outreach, into the follow-ups, the whole process just runs smoothly and runs in quite a linear process. So now the technology stack for ABM. So you'll notice it looks very similar to the one we just used for high volume. The difference is how we execute. So in ABM, we'll still start with data sources like the ones I mentioned, but basically we're going after fewer higher value accounts. So we spend more time in that research and validation stage in terms of properly researching these companies. And that can be manual. Like we can go on and actually go on to their LinkedIns and their website, as well as using LLMs as well. So all data still feeds into the CRM and into Clay, and enriching that data. But from there, outreach can happen depending on where our touch points are going to happen. I'll give a couple of different examples, but you can have like DPD and on post. DPD they would have tracking, so someone would actually have to physically sign off on receiving that lumpy mail, which is pretty cool. We've used that wisely in the past. But you're sending direct messages like personalized emails or personalized LinkedIn messages. So slightly different, but everything can still be connected to Calendly and to Slack in terms of that automation. So, there's other ABM tools out there that you can look at, but there's that's sort of the main focus. Like I will I will share this with people at the end, like other tools and other advanced tools, but I'm not going to go through those now. What I'd like to bring you through now is just a real life example of ABM from our own business. I'm going to be using our campaign instead of a client, so I can walk you through everything from what we said in the emails, the exact full strategy, because I don't want to be breaching any NDAs with any clients, because it is quite personalized. There's a lot of effort that goes into these, and yeah, you'll see that in a moment. So what I'm going to bring you through is an example from 2020, and the reason I've chosen this one many years ago, because we're now in 2025 when I'm shooting this, but the reason I've chosen this one and not something new is just because if you're starting out with ABM, there's no point in me showing you a really advanced version. You got to start with the basics, get them right, and then just build on it from there. Think of this in layers. This was one of our very first ABM campaigns run through one of our agencies at the time called Evolve Marketing. So Evolve Marketing has been around in Ireland for many, many years. And, it was a real turning point for us as an organization at that time in 2020, because we had started to really approach those high value accounts, the largest accounts in Ireland. We'd worked with a lot of small and mid-tier companies, but this was us going after the biggest players, the top 15 largest law firms in Ireland, which was massive for us. And the objective was clear. We wanted to secure face-to-face meetings with some of those biggest names. That was the end goal. So these firms were our ideal customer profile. At the time, we'd already built strong experience working with small and mid-tier law firms, as I said. But we started with just a brainstorming session to map out, okay, what is the leverage points that we have in our strategy? And one of those biggest advantages that we had was the strength of our extended team at the time. So we had signed an agreement with the former VP of marketing at JP Morgan, and she had come on board as a strategic partner. She had gone out self-employed. So we partnered with her to support us on a consultancy level with our clients, so she could step in on a day rate with our clients. And we also had the ex-partner from Beechcroft, who worked on a lot of commercial growth roles. She did a stint in Matheson as well. So that was massive for us, because both brought deep credibility and influence in the space, which we knew would resonate with our target accounts. We also had relevant case studies, some really good success stories from smaller firms and mid-tier firms, which we could adapt those case studies to our approach for the larger practices. And this gave us a strong combination of industry insight, but credibility and proof that we could deliver results. We were also at the time highly reviewed on Google from other professional service firms. So there was a lot of that playing in our favor, but that's where you start to understand your leverage. Like, what is your leverage with ABM is the question I would always encourage not only a client, but anyone we're coaching on before launching this. And from there, we moved into designing the touch points, the messaging, creative approach, which I'll walk you through in the next slide. At this time, we didn't have the 5Ds framework in place, not in the way we use it today, but it was starting to take shape back in 2020 from campaigns like this. So just based on the level of effort that we were actually putting into the campaigns at that time, and then steps we naturally followed. If you look at this slide, you can see what we did back then actually mirrors the 5Ds. So as I said before, we didn't have it back then, but we clearly defined our target firms. We discovered everything we could about the decision makers. We designed plays that leveraged our credibility. We delivered those plays across multiple touch points, and we drove engagement by tracking, responding to signals. So back then it wasn't a defined framework yet, more of a process that we were figuring out in real time through trial and error, through our own trial and error. But looking back on it now, you can clearly see the early version of how it was emerging through the way we were approaching these campaigns. So let's zoom back in on these 15 law firms. So From there, it was about just keeping momentum and just turning that initial attention into action. So we knew that these firms didn't know us. So we combined that offline and online touch points to stay on their radar. It started with, LinkedIn connections at the starting point, to sending out that lumpy letter. So first of all, we actually decided on, okay, what are the channels we're going to use? So we're going to use lumpy mail, email, LinkedIn, and phone. These are the 4 channels that we're going to use. Okay, and then there was touch points scattered across this 10 over a 2-week period. So we wanted enough touch points to get a yes or a no, and not to drag things out, basically. And across those 10 touch points, you've got so many different interactions, from LinkedIn to lumpy mail to email follow-up to LinkedIn DM to cold call and voicemail to another email follow-up, and then multiple other email follow-ups. So there was a couple of moving parts within here. All right. And what we were looking for is basically, okay, what are those key signals that we're gonna get from them? So there was a couple of signals that we were looking out for, in the sense of having a signal to us once you send a touch point is like, did they open the letter? So did DPD, we would have had signals set up with that, so it would actually set up tracking. If they got sent a letter and they opened it, DPD would have to sign off on that. So there was lots of buying signals throughout this. Did they answer our calls or listen to our voicemails? Did they respond to our DMs? So there's many signals that we're watching out for. But when it comes to ABM outreach, most people make the mistake of just sending something generic. So yeah, let's actually just jump into the letter. This is the exact letter that we sent out. So let's just walk through it together. So, hi Fiona, I wanted to reach out because we've spotted something important in Walkers Ireland's digital footprint that could be affecting your ability to attract new clients. Right now, your SEO rankings aren't capturing the market share they could in several key practice areas. Competitors are consistently outranking you in Google search results, meaning they're showing up more often than potential clients are looking for services you provide. We also notice that your tracking and your attribution aren't fully set up, which means you may not be getting clear data on where inquiries are coming from and how effective your marketing efforts actually are. This is leaving opportunities on the table, opportunities your competitors are claiming simply because they're more visible online and can track, optimize, and retarget with precision. My name is Ty Gary, founder of Evolve Marketing, an agency that works exclusively with professional service firms. We specialize in helping firms like yours close these gaps by setting up complete acquisition systems, from SEO to content to analytics to tracking to attribution, so you can take back online market share and win more of the right clients. Our team blends specialist digital marketers with professionals who know your world inside out, including name former CMO of JP Morgan, and name former managing partner of Beechcroft. Over the past 18 months, we've helped firms in Ireland and the UK and the US, such as Name and Name, to boost qualified inquiries by as much as 55% through combination of SEO improvements, competitor gap analysis, and conversion tracking. I'd love to set up a meeting with you to run through a full audit of your industry, showing exactly where you currently rank, where your competitors are gaining the edge, and the steps you can take to reclaim that Google market share. Would you be open to a meeting next week? So that was the exact letter we used. Now, each client would have a personalized touch, but I'm just showing you one example here. Each prospect would have had a personalized touch. So a couple of things to note here, and I would encourage everyone to do this, is what's the most pressing specific pain point that you can spot for this account? This should go up the top. That's your hook. Then why should they believe you can solve it? That should be your middle paragraph. And then what's the most valuable low commitment next step that you can offer down the bottom? So if you look back on this and take a screenshot, or I'll be sending you the deck after, so you can go through it yourself, you will see that we really tick these 3 boxes. All right. So for this part of the campaign, we also wanted to just do something to cut through and sort of feel a bit more personal. So along with the main letter, we hand wrote a short Valentine's theme note, because it was the week of Valentine's Day, and we added a bit of humor, included a chocolate, love heart, And the thinking here was simple. It's a psychology play to some extent. Giving something triggers reciprocity. So humor makes it memorable. And most importantly, it shows, we're just human at the end of the day, having a bit of fun with this outreach. So in ABM, it's not always about just selling. And I want to make that very clear. It's about making a genuine connection. So that when you do move into maybe a sales conversation, the door is already open and there's a level of trust and you can have a bit of a laugh about the situation. I think that's the real key, is have fun with this as well. And focus on just building a genuine connection. That's the one bit of feedback I can give. So, over those 2 weeks, we didn't stop with just sending out a letter. As I said, there was a lot of follow-up as well to really get their attention. But these were some of the buying signals that we watched out. This should be in a slide a little bit earlier. But accepting the LinkedIn connection request, the DPD signals, as I said, opening and responding. So we were watching out and spotting those signals. And then out of 15 firms that we reached out to, that we targeted, 11 replied. So that's just over 73% response rate. So you'll never get that level of engagement with high volume cold email approach. I've never heard of it. If you're blasting out to 1,000 companies, you're just never going to get that level of reply rate. So this is the power of account-based marketing. Fewer accounts that you target, higher relevance, deeper personalization, and persistence. We 11 out of the 15 responded. Here's the exact 11. We'll just read them out. Let's read them together. So this was William Fry. Hi Ty, got the letters, happy to meet up, and I'm around next week if you can give me a few time options. I've obviously blurred out the people's names from a GDPR perspective, but that was from William Fry. You've got McCann Fitzgerald. Ty, thanks. Yes, I did, and thought it was funny. I'm not available this week, but would be happy to take a call next week. So that was great. Philip Lee, hi Ty, thanks for your letter and for the nice chocolates. Would you be free sometime before 1 p.m. tomorrow to chat? Another great one. Then other ones like Arthur Crocs. Thanks Ty, we'll keep your details. Wasn't much of a play there. A&L Goodbody. Ty, I was on annual leave last week, so quite a bit of catching up to do. I received your letter and LinkedIn messages and intended to revert. I have a large hands-on BD and marketing team and we do quite a bit in-house, therefore not seeing the direct need for services from Evolve at the moment. We have quite a few pressing priorities at the moment as Q1 is very busy time with planning and events. Leave it with me for now. Which is fine. Again, these are all answers, so this is exactly what you want in this scenario. Hi Ty, thanks for this and the lovely letter. Right now I'm in the middle of some major projects and we'll keep focused. Perhaps we meet later in the year, which is fine. Like, we'll mark that down. Matheson is a massive company. We'll mark that down and follow up accordingly. I'll reach out if that changes. Best of luck with everything. Again, really positive message there from the director of marketing. Mason Hayes, which is Ty, thanks for the letter. Unfortunately not relevant at the moment, but I will keep in touch. McCann Fitzgerald, hi Rory, hi Ty and Rory, many thanks for sending these and the case studies and the dashboard examples. I'm taking a look at these now and we'll revert with dates that suit to meet. So again, a really positive one there. Thanks for the letter and the follow-up. I'm afraid I have no opportunities at the moment. And that was Alusha Goodard, another massive company. So you get the point. Ty, yes, I received the letters. I have other priorities to look and attend. And if you want to nominate some dates for next week, I will see if I can meet you. And that was Dylan Houston. So that was another meeting that took place as well. We didn't actually mark that down in the results, so the results are actually higher up. Our VA has screenshotted these, so that's another interesting one. And then DLA Piper, hi Ty, thanks, I got your letter and the chocolates. It melted in the envelope. My diary is a bit hectic right now. If there's something particular you'd like to consider, please send me a summary. Look, chocolate melted in the envelope. That's not ideal, but that is just the reality of it. And then a LinkedIn message here as well from Walkers Global. So 11 responses out of the 15. This one actually would have turned into a meeting. I can't remember 5 years ago, but we were going back over, okay, all of those meetings. Well, our virtual assistant was, and going back in. So there actually was 5 face-to-face meetings. I've got 4 down here in the notes. But Philip Lee, William Fry, McCann Fitzgerald, and Walkers. I distinctly remember these 3 meetings. I was involved, but I think Tig, the CEO of Evolve at the time, was in with Walkers, and it looked like Dylan Houston as well. So that wasn't included. But then from there, we signed 1 client. So one of those turned into a high value signed client. And the other 3 meetings, they're very good conversations from what I remember at that time. They did have a lot of potential. But if you look at the timing of those campaigns, it was February 2020 and the world had other plans. Let's just say COVID-19 had arrived right on cue and made new business conversations a little bit complicated. But it all comes back down to the numbers. 73% response rates, 26.6 face-to-face meetings was the booking rate, and 25% close rate on those meetings. So at the end of the day, campaigns like this are all about the numbers. Do the numbers make sense? So I hope this training was helpful. What you've seen here is just layer 1 of account-based marketing, the very basics. There are probably 5 layers in total. You can go a lot more deeper than I went today, but you need to start here and then start layering more advanced tactics once you get the basics right. So if you'd like to explore that side of things, more advanced versions, you can organize a discovery call with our team. We'll start to map that out with you. And if you want to dig back through everything we've gone through today, you can also download the full slide deck that I've gone through. Plus, there's 3 extra frameworks that I haven't gone through, but they're really, really helpful, showing you, 1, the building blocks around ABM. So that's a really good one to have as a checklist. The other one is the 4 forces behind getting a yes in B2B, as well as some advanced tools that we use in ABM. And then also, there's other snippets there that I think were going to be really helpful. So all you need to do is just click the link below this video and then you can grab that material. So I hope this is helpful.